recess session of Gibson County Legislative Body will please come to order. Good morning.
Good morning.
I appreciate everybody being here today, and thank all of our visitors for being here today, especially my wife Sheila for joining us this morning for a little moral support. This time I want to call on Commissioner Keith Steele. Lead us in prayer, please.
Let us pray. Our dear Father in heaven, thank you for this day. Bless the men and women that are here today to represent the people of Gibson County. Be with us as we make hard decisions today. May we be able to work together and give Gibson County a bright and sound future. Help us, dear Lord, to find ways to give the youth of Gibson County a bright future and protect those of our elder. May we always be willing to work together as a team for all of Gibson County. God grant us patience and wisdom today to work together. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Won't you recite with the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, thank you to everyone for being here this morning. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Hughes.
Here.
Commissioner Egbert.
Here.
Commissioner Cunningham.
Here.
Commissioner Sykes.
Here.
Commissioner Longmire.
Here.
Commissioner Carr.
Here.
Commissioner Macklin.
Here.
Commissioner Bevins. Commissioner Tubbs.
Here.
Commissioner Martin.
Here.
Commissioner Cameron.
Here.
Commissioner Summers.
Here.
Commissioner Cole.
Here.
Commissioner Nance.
Here.
Commissioner Locke.
Here.
Commissioner Collins.
Here.
Commissioner Flake.
Here.
Commissioner Smith. Commissioner McEwen.
Here.
Commissioner Littleton.
Here.
Commissioner Taylor.
Here.
Commissioner Steele.
Here.
Commissioner Yergin.
Here.
Commissioner Childers.
Here.
Commissioner Moss.
Here.
24 present, one absent. We do have a quorum. You received in your packets budget transfer requests. I'd like to entertain a motion on these requests. Motion made by Commissioner Steele, seconded by Commissioner Morgan. If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hughes.
Yes.
Commissioner Egbert.
Yes.
Commissioner Cunningham.
Yes.
Commissioner Sykes.
Yes.
Commissioner Longmire.
Yes.
Commissioner Carr.
Yes.
Commissioner Macklin.
Yes.
Commissioner Tubbs.
Yes.
Commissioner Martin.
Yes.
Commissioner Cameron.
Yes.
Commissioner Summers.
Yes.
Commissioner Cole.
Yes.
Commissioner Nance.
Yes.
Commissioner Locke.
Yes.
Commissioner Collins.
Yes.
Commissioner Flake.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith. Commissioner McEwen.
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton.
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor.
Yes.
Commissioner Steele.
Yes.
Commissioner Yergin.
Yes.
Commissioner Childers.
Yes.
Commissioner Moss.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. This time I'd like to entertain a motion to hear late file resolutions. Motion made by Commissioner Moss, seconded by Commissioner Tubbs. All those in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
I'd also like to entertain a motion at this time that we dispense with reading of late file resolutions. Motion made by Commissioner Steele, seconded by Commissioner Cameron. All those in favor vote by saying aye. Aye. And opposed, like sign. Before I call on Chairman Longmire to present the 2015-16 budget, I'd just like to thank everyone for their hard work, especially on the budget committee. Worked a lot of late nights over the past few weeks. We had a great attendance. I think the first night of the budget hearings we had 16 commissioners in attendance, so that was very well attended, and I appreciate everybody for your hard work on that. And I've said time and again, were it not for the various committees that we have in this legislative body, we couldn't do the business we do in the fashion we do it. So I appreciate all your hard work and all your time, and with no further ado, I'd like to call on Commissioner Longmire to come forward with his budget. I'm gonna ask the Director of Finance, Greg Pillow, to come forward also.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to everyone.
Good morning.
I want to echo what the mayor said. I appreciate all the turnout that we've had in the last several budget hearings. I think that it proves to me that we've got a lot of great concern for our county. I think we've got a great team. I think that seeing what they've seen and hearing what they've heard and their input back to the budget committee has made a huge difference as to where we're at now versus where we were in the beginnings. So, secondly, I want to thank our finance director this morning, Mr. Greg Pilla, for all the great work and effort that he has put into this budget. He has presented us with vivid and easy to understand workbooks at each hearing. He's also presented to us, as each of you may have, the packet before you for our proposed budget. I, along with the budget committee, believe that the elected officials, department heads, have done a great job maintaining their budgets at near numbers as last year. Many have even reduced their expected budget expenditures for the new budget, and I appreciate the hard work that it took to do that. Just to give you some statistics from this current budget of 14-15, the general fund revenue as compared to the 15-16 upcoming revenue has shown, or will show, a 1.75 increase. We expected about $273,000 more dollars in revenue. Very pleased with that. In expenditures, I'm very pleased that we have shown a 1.3% reduction in general fund expenditures by cutting about $212,000 in expenditures on the general fund. We also understand that every department has needs, and certainly as a county commission, we want to service those needs as best we can, as fairly and as just as we possibly could. We have took that into high consideration on every hearing that we've had with each department head or elected official. We started these budget hearings, and literally after about the first day or so, we were facing a potential 30-cent tax increase. So I do feel like that the budget committee, along with Director Pilla, the mayor, and the commissioners who attended, have done a fantastic job whittling that back to more realistic numbers. I will tell you that Gibson County provides basic services that we are very privileged to have. Having those basic services requires our maintenance of effort, and also it requires us to make sure that we're compensating as best we can, as fairly as we can. With the basic services that we have, again, I state it's a privilege. Some we do not have to have. When we started looking at all this and the requests that come in, it was a long, hard decision as to how we would cut or reduce expenditures from certain departments. And I think that has been well thought out. I think there's been great effort put into it, and I commend everybody who has been at those meetings and their support. I'm just going to go over a couple of the bigger changes about our budget numbers that you might find interesting. Most of it is all in the packet. There's nothing there that's not hidden. It's all relevant. But I'm going to start with the sheriff's department because he has probably the largest of increases anyway. And I'll tell you that he's come to us very boldly. And as an elected official, to make bold movements is brave. But it's also, he has used his head, he's used his body, his governing body, and their wisdom to make good decisions that I think will be very beneficial to the sheriff's department and the jail going forward. One of his requests was to request 6 more jailers. By adding the 6 jailers, the jail will be better staffed as the state recommends. And there's some benefit in the fact that every state inmate that we house, we get some cost back on that. So by adding 6 more jailers, we can potentially add as many as 40, is that correct? 40 more state indicted inmates. Now, we don't need 40 state indicted inmates to help compensate 6 jailers. I want to make that clear. But with 20, we can compensate that number. So basically, if we add the jailers and we add 20 more inmates, it will basically wash their salaries. The sheriff also realized the need for another bailiff. The bailiff helps in the court system and assisting with the transport of inmates, and we realized that need, and we left that in there as well. The sheriff realized the need for more road deputies. We looked at this very carefully because, again, by providing the service that we provide, we want to make sure that we're providing the safest, most productive service we possibly can. And if our road deputies are short due to overtime or having to take off for comp time, it could short us on road deputies. Therefore, meaning if you have a call in Trenton and your road deputy's in Medina, he's got a long road to hoe before he can get to you. And certainly, we want to be able to provide the residents of this county with the most proactive, ready service we can. And it is the decision of the Budget Committee that we have allotted the sheriff 3 more road deputies for this year. We've asked that he stagger their employment to help with their costs. And because of that, we will save this year about $100,000 in their salaries. I want to make that salary and benefits. So, saying all that, I believe the sheriff's doing a fine job. He has implemented some practices into the jail that have not only been beneficial to the inmates, but have turned revenue for the county that we haven't had previously. So I think there's more to come with his benefits. We appreciate the work he's doing. I'm going to jump into the ambulance. I want to tell you that I feel that Star's doing a great job in what she is there to do, managing the ambulance force, making sure that her equipment, her vehicles are safe and road ready, making sure they pass inspection, licensing. That's very important. I feel that we have seen many changes in the ambulance service in just the past short years. When we lost the ability to have a hospital locally, it brought on a severity of more travel miles, more time for our ambulance service, their personnel, to provide the care that we provide to our citizens. In saying that, by adding those miles and that time, it has been very hard on our ambulances. And the longevity of their service is going to be greatly reduced as we put miles on more rapidly now than we have in the past. So this year, in the capital outlay note that we've already passed and set, we have allotted 2 ambulances in that note. And I want to clarify some confusion, if there be any, that in this note, these vehicles will be cleared out of that note in the first 4 years. So the first 4-year payments will be heavily weighed, if you will, to compensate for those ambulances, and they will be completely paid for in 4 years of that note. With with such level of care that we provide, again, it is basic, but there is a need that we provide good, safe equipment, and obviously technology changes every day. We've also included in our capital projects $90,000 this year for the ambulance service to be able to provide newer heart monitors for her units. Now, this will not put a heart monitor in every unit. We know that, we understand that. But it will, and it should give us the ability to about 3 that we will be able to put in probably our most used units, the ones that travel the most, get the most calls, and obviously that'll be at the discretion of Star, as she is the director. I guess the next big ticket item that I see is the Budget Committee has allocated $150,000 this year in our capital projects for the fire department. We understand there's many needs in the fire department, and certainly we're well aware and we want to support the fire department every way we can. But we know that there's a need for updating turnout gear, as we so learned last year. We want to continue doing that. We want to provide the extra air packs that the chief needs to make sure he is staffed completely. So we have allocated that money from his regular budget into the capital projects. We realize that there's concern for daytime help. That's been weighed heavily. It is a concern of every commissioner I feel in this room. And I will pledge that I will do anything we can to help Chief Kathy move forward in recruiting volunteers, finding ways to make our volunteers more interested, and make sure we provide the services in the daytime as well as and as adequate as our nighttime. I understand that we have about 140 something volunteers right now on our insurance, and I do understand that we're all a workforce and we all have daily jobs and careers that we must follow. So, saying that, we want to help the chief in any way we can to grow his volunteer staff to a level that is adequate and provides us our daytime service as adequately as it can at night. The next thing I speak quickly on is our charitable organizations this year. We have had the opportunity to look at those. We have made some adjustments, as well as we have added a few to the list this year. Just to give you an idea of what's been added: transition to Dyer County, the American Red Cross, the Milan Mustard Seed, and RAP. We understand that the resolution going forward for the nonprofits is $49,750. I would want to make it clear to you that our charitable contribution is 0.2% of our entire budget. 0.2% of your property taxes. It's not a lot of money. I want to mention our fund balance. We're approximately setting, I don't know that I have the exact number, Director Phil probably does, but I'm going to throw this number out and correct me. We're approximately about $5.5 million in the general fund for our fund balance. I will tell you that because we are setting in what I would call a healthy position, it has helped us tremendously on our bond rating. We've had the opportunity to go from an A+ bond rating to this year a AA-, which is exceptional for a county of this size. I want to remind you that we want to uphold this going forward. We want to be able to maintain such a bond rating. It's basically like the credit score if you go to borrow a car. And to do this, we've got to understand that we've got to move forward, and the property tax increase is how we balance our budget, and that's what the needs are. Basically, that's all the notes that I've got on the bigger expenditures of the county. I will tell you that, again, that the rest of the department heads or elected officials have submitted a near same budget, if not less, than their year past. So we have hashed through all those line items over several different meetings, and I don't necessarily see that we need to go back over that. Finally, I will tell you that in this year's budget, we have felt like that we needed to put in a 2% salary adjustment for cost of living. Each year, we all know that things get a little more expensive, and I don't know that 2% offsets the increase in what it takes to live in today's world, but that is a number that we all felt was comfortable, that we could provide, and so it has been included. So with no further ado, as the chairman of the Budget Committee, I want to make a recommendation that we accept our 2015-16 budget as it's presented in the packet.
Commissioner Longmire has made a motion to approve late file resolution number 1, making appropriations for the various funds, departments, institutions, offices, and agencies of Gibson County, Tennessee for the year beginning July 1, 2015 and ending June 30th, 2016. Is there a second? And seconded by Commissioner Moss. Is there any further questions or discussion? If not, Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Yes.
Mr. Mayor, may I address one question I have?
Sure.
On the 2% salary adjustment, did we not last year pay for extra monies to go to each employee because of the increase of medical? I do
Boys, you
remember
said
that.
raise last year, but
I'm not saying that it was a salary, but did we not pay for, we as a county pay for the increase in medical expense for the county employees?
first I've heard it.
Are you asking if our insurance premium went up? Because yes, it did. And yes, it will again. And going forward, we could be potentially looking at 25 to 30% increase. So,
And last year, how did we handle that as a county, that increase? Where'd that money come from? Did the employees pay for it?
Partially, part of the expense was passed on to the employees.
And then what was the other partial?
The majority of the cost will be absorbed by the county. We are a self-insured county. And we have a company that administers our health insurance. And they help us control costs. But as I think everybody in this room knows, the cost of health care gradually increases every year. And the premiums to the employees increase on a yearly basis, determined by this company that administers our policy.
Right.
But the other part of it is absorbed by the county.
So we, in essence, the taxpayer help pay for partial payment of the employee's salary or increase in medical? Is that true?
Yes.
Yes.
And we will do that again this year if it increases?
Yes.
Is that true? Would that not be considered in an odd way, percentage in salary increase? I mean,
It's an increase in benefits to the employees, yes. But as far as the salary, the amount that's in the check for take-home pay, the salaries would not, in total employee benefits, yes, would include that, salary plus benefits.
and if it wasn't paid for, then they would have to pay more out of pocket. I guess what I'm saying is I oppose the 2% raise because we are already giving them, in an odd roundabout way, we're already giving them X amount of dollars a year to stay even with medical. That's all I have to say.
And we appreciate your input, and just to be honest with you, we pass on a lot of expense to our employees, and they take it as best they can. And we've tried to balance the budget on their backs many times. And I understand what you're saying, but to me, if they're not bringing home more money, they're not getting a raise. Just because we're absorbing part of their insurance costs, that's not putting more food on their table, and that's not helping them put gas in their car or clothes on their children's back. You know, I see what you're saying, but it sounds like a way to rationalize not giving a raise, in my opinion.
Yes.
Commissioner Steele?
I guess I've overlooked the heart monitors. What line item did we put that
It's in the
in?
It's on
capital
capital
project.
project.
Oh, it is?
Not in the action.
Okay.
Flip on toward the back, you should be able to run. I think about
Okay, well, I didn't know if we had to list that in there, even if it was a capital outlay into the budget from that department or not.
That's been moved.
Okay.
And some of these moves to capital projects, just so you guys will know, are being done at the request of the comptroller's office. It's just an attempt on their part to move money from other funds and miscellaneous funds into earmarked funds, that could that can be nailed down better, so.
I just didn't know if, I thought in the past, it maybe, I thought in the past it would show that in that line, in a line item, even though it took it out of capital outlay.
Yeah, we have in the past done that, put it in other equipment.
Right.
And again, this is just an attempt on our part
Yeah.
to keep the state happy and keep a clean audit. And
So they're okay with not showing it into this budget?
They're
Yeah.
requesting it. They are requesting us to move those capital projects into the capital projects fund.
yeah,
And not show it into the budget?
It's not shown in the general fund, it's shown in the capital projects fund.
I don't know, I guess in my mind, it looks like we'd show it in that ambulance fund budget where we're spending that money out of that department. But, you know, that's why they want it after I got probably.
yeah. I mean, it's just like us keeping capital projects money for courthouse repairs
Right.
out of courthouse maintenance. You know, you think it would go into courthouse maintenance, but it settles the comptroller's nerves a little bit better if we keep it in capital projects. That's all it is in the world.
Okay. I don't have a problem with it, I just noticed that it wasn't showing in that budget.
And neither does the fire departments, so, and that's caused a little confusion, but, you know, it's been moved for the states to, you know, to, I guess, receive the happiness and sanity of the state.
I don't have a problem with it, I just want to make sure that,
Just making sure it's in there.
that's right.
It's a house cleaning measure.
If you look at the resolution shows for $706,885 for general capital projects fund.
Yeah, well,
That's
we
it.
always, it showed the capital outlay project amount, but it was always shown in the budget of the ambulance authority also as I guess it's part of the expenses to the.
Yeah, I can't show it in both places though, because you'd be doubling it up.
Yeah.
Request.
Okay. Okay.
And it's harder and harder to achieve clean audit, and I think it's important that we do, you know, and Commissioner Longmire alluded to it a little earlier about keeping that fund balance where it is and our bond rating. And not only does the bond rating help us borrow money cheaper, but it also helps us on our grant applications, because if we're showing our bond rating increasing, that shows that we're doing a good job of fiscal management, and the state especially is more receptive to working with counties that have demonstrated their ability to do that. So it's all a balancing act, and we're trying to keep clean audit, and sometimes that's a moving target, you know, that's hard to hit sometimes. So
Now, like I said, I don't have a problem with that, I just want to make sure we.
I completely understand. So appreciate that. Any further questions or comments? If not, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hughes,
No.
Commissioner Egbert,
No.
Commissioner Cunningham,
Yes.
Commissioner Sykes,
Yes.
Commissioner Longmire,
Yes.
Commissioner Carr,
Yeah.
Commissioner Mackin,
I have a disclaimer I have to read before I can do my vote. Because I'm an employee of the Gibson County Sheriff's Department, I have a conflict of interest in the proposal about to be voted. However, I declare that my argument and my vote answers only to my conscience and my obligations to my constituents and citizens this body represents, and that's from TCA 12-4-101. My vote is yes.
Commissioner Tubbs,
Yes.
Commissioner Morgan,
Yes.
Commissioner Cameron,
Yes.
Commissioner Summers,
Yes.
Commissioner Cole,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
No.
Commissioner Locke,
No.
Commissioner Collins,
Yes.
Commissioner Flake,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner McEwen,
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton,
No.
Commissioner Pill,
No.
Commissioner Steele,
Yes.
Commissioner Yergin,
Yes.
Commissioner Childers,
I have a disclaimer I have to read before I vote. Because I am an employee of the Gibson County Sheriff's Department, I have a conflict of interest in the proposal about to be voted. However, I declare that my argument and my vote answer only to my conscience and my obligation to my constituents and the citizens this body represents. Yes.
Commissioner Moss.
Yes.
18 yes, 6 no. Motion carries. We have a budget.
Thank y'all.
Thank you very much.
We can move forward now on our budget.
Yeah.
Before I go further, I'm gonna ask the Director Bill come forward with, give him the opportunity to talk about our future, I guess, a little bit.
We should we take up the nonprofits before we go into, is nonprofits next? It should be
Yeah,
next.
let's go ahead and get nonprofits
I
covered.
apologize. Hey, it's my first rodeo.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Mine too.
Just move it along.
We're roping together.
Late file resolution number 2 is a resolution making appropriations to nonprofit charitable organizations of Gibson County, Tennessee for the year beginning July 1, 2015 and ending June 30, 2016. Do I hear a motion on late file resolution number 2? Motion made by Commissioner Miles, seconded by Commissioner Flake. Is there any discussion on late file resolution number 2?
I just have one question. What is the transition to our?
I know a little bit about it. It is an assistance program for women.
I think it's women and maybe that are, sheriff, where's the sheriff at? Do you, the transitions, do you know, I want to say it's battered women that have been abused.
I believe that's right.
Well, that is RAP too.
Yeah, that's RAP. I'm not familiar with transitions.
I do know that they have dealt with several of our Gibson County residents, and it's proved to be beneficial. That's what I do.
And when they sent me their information, they did show where that they had helped about, I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, like 17 residents that had went through their system.
I think what I understand about, I did speak with a lady from there, is they're more focused on women who have previously been incarcerated, who are mothers, helping them transition back into the workforce, back into being a parent, back into kids' life, getting them reestablished in the community to get them back involved with their kids, their family.
They got our county, we have.
That's correct. I do have a provider.
Where do we end this at, Tom? This charitable contribution, where do we end it?
So that's up to you guys. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's been handled properly. We asked that the nonprofits who are seeking help come present, and the budget committee hears their case, so to speak, and makes that decision whether or not to move forward.
Most all of these really help people of our county in one way or the other. You know, like West Tennessee here in Speech, even though they're in Jackson, we send a lot of people over there that can't pay, and they do help them.
And we do require a completed audit from every entity that applies to make sure they're complying.
Yeah, not one penny will be expended from our office unless they're in compliance with our.
I can speak for the RAP represented by being a court officer. They have a liaison that comes to court every time we've got court, and they basically deal with women that's been battered and abused, and they do have a shelter they built here in Trenton, and because of that shelter, they're really helping us tremendously, because now we've got a place here in Gibson County where women that has been battered and abused didn't have any place to go, and they do help these women, and they are actively there every time the courts are open. They're there, and they're helping with the people.
Any further discussion?
I made a comment last year on charitable contributions, and before anybody thinks I'm hard-hearted, I'm not. I agree in supporting charities. I just do not think that as a government body, it's a proper function of government for us to take money out of people's pocket and give to the charities that we select for them. There are lots of other charities that are not on this list that support Gibson County, and I'm sure every one of these charities helps support Gibson County. But the question is it a proper function of us as a government body to force constituents to give to particular charities over others? I don't think that that's a proper function.
I agree. And I can see your point, I really can, but
I'd also like to say that
you know, I really believe in giving to charities. I've given to them all my life, but I don't think government should be involved.
And I can see your position, but the law says you are involved and are able to be involved, and you either choose to or not to. It's just that simple. We're gonna take an up or down vote today to decide. In my opinion, it's a small amount of money that shows a tremendous amount of goodwill for our county. That's my opinion. And I'll be honest with you, my favorite charity is not among these, as I look over that list, but my favorite charity hadn't come to the budget committee asking for help either, is the reason it's not on there.
Later on, I had a couple of these entities on here, they're not what I would consider a charity. The Rescue Squad and the Patterson Center, a service in the county, it's not necessarily a charity.
I disagree with you respectfully on that. So I visited both of these organizations and seen the good they do in the community.
Yeah, I understand they're doing good at that.
Any further discussion on nonprofits? If not, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hughes? No. Commissioner Egbert?
No.
Commissioner Cunningham?
Yes.
Commissioner Sykes?
Yes.
Commissioner Longmire?
Yes.
Commissioner Carr?
Yes.
Commissioner Mackin?
Yes.
Commissioner Tubbs?
Yes.
Commissioner Morgan?
Yes.
Commissioner Cameron?
Yes.
Commissioner Summers?
No.
Commissioner Cole?
Yes.
Commissioner Nance?
No.
Commissioner Locke?
No.
Commissioner Carver?
Yes.
Commissioner Flake?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner McEwen?
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton?
No.
Commissioner Pillow?
No.
Commissioner Steele?
No.
Commissioner Yergin?
No.
Commissioner Childers?
Yes.
Commissioner Moss?
Yes.
Yes.
15 yes, 9 no.
9 no.
Motion carries. Thank you. Now the fun part.
Now we'll move forward. Now we've got a budget, we've got to figure out how to fund it. So this time I will ask Greg for a phone call.
I want to take you into the future a little bit. Now, right now as it stands, the county is in good financial shape. But coming down the road, 5 to 6 years from now, we're going to meet head on with the freight train in our finances. And I got some graphs I want to show you, and I'll try to go. Your green lines in the stacked bar graphs there is revenue. The red line's expenditures. We're starting with, that's, if you can't see it, it's the 2011-2012. Let's just stick with revenues for right now and expenditures. Up until about 2014, our revenues exceeded our expenditures. This current budget cycle that we're in, we are projected for our expenditures to exceed revenues. Now, why is that? That's because our property tax rates have stayed the same for over that time period. But our expenditures, I mean, it's just, look at your own households. The cost of living has gone up. The cost of funding government has gone up. So that's where we're at today. Going forward, this budget year, right now, we're about $2 million short. Now, part of that is our intentional. Our debt service fund has got more money in it than the IRS says it needs to have in it. So we're bringing down that balance in the debt service fund. That's about $800,000 of our $2 million deficit. We got about 200,000 plus or minus in the general fund, and we got another $800,000 in the highway department this year. So when you look at our 15-16 budget cycle, we got a shortfall in revenues versus expenditures. And I hope that kind of gives you some of the appreciation that the budget committee went through in trying to make these decisions. You know, as Commissioner Longmire said, we started out at a 30-cent tax increase, about $2 million more than we're at right now that you just passed in the budget. So what I've done is I've projected out, leaving the property tax rate as it is today. I projected out a 2% increase each year in revenues and expenditures. Now, I could be wrong. I may not be projecting enough, or I may be projecting too much, but 2% is a good level number to project out. The yellow line, or the yellow stack on the bar graph, is our fund balances for the county, less highway. I don't have all the information on highway to predict and project, so I'm sticking with what I know is the county less the highway. That yellow bar is our fund balance and projected fund balance going forward. You see how lower each year those yellow bars are getting. The blue bars is what the state comptroller office says that Gibson County needs to have in their fund balances to be a healthy county. And when I say a healthy county, that means we don't have to borrow money from month to month to meet our expenditures because we're waiting on property taxes to start coming in. We can finance ourselves. Well, you can see there in about the 2018-2019 cycle, we're getting pretty close to what the comptroller says we should be. The next year, we're below, and the next year, we're way below. So what does that mean? To stay in good graces with the state comptroller, we've got to increase property taxes drastically. So in the 2019-2020, we're going to have to raise property taxes by 12 cents just to maintain the fund balance that the state comptroller asked us to be at. It's going to take another 6 cents the next year to maintain that fund balance. So in 2 years there, 5-6 years in the future, we're going to have to raise property taxes by about 18 cents over 2 years. Now, there's an alternative. What if I can find my buttons here. Go to the next graph. Same revenues, same expenditures, same fund balance recommendation of the state comptroller. But let's say we increase property taxes this budget cycle by 3.5 cents. And then let's go out each year and increase property taxes by 2 cents. Well, at the end of 6 years, overall, we've increased property taxes by about 12, 13, 14% or cents. But we got healthy fund balances. Now, there's a lot of things that can happen in the next 5 or 6 years. We can have another recession. Our revenue falls. Not property tax. Well, property values could go down in a recession. There's a lot of things here that can happen. But using this projection of what we know now, if we would go with like a 2 to 3.5 cent property tax increase today and increase that a little bit each year, we don't have that freight train coming at us in 5 or 6 years. You know, and I've used the analogy with Tom, it's like, do we want to ask the average property owner, I'm talking about the average property owner, the median house price in this county is $80,000 to $85,000. Do we want to ask the average property owner to buy, say, Happy Meal every year, an additional Happy Meal every year, or do we want to wait 6 years and say, let's go to Jackson for 2 people in each state? That's basically the cost here that we're looking at, the cost differences. And I know we've got some finance people in the room, and we may have some more bankers. You can see that based on the time value of money and finances, that it's it's better to increase a little bit at a time and get the use of that instead of waiting until we have to, and then we have to place a huge load on the taxpayers of the county. Now, I'm not here advocating property taxes one way or the other. Y'all hired me to provide you with financial insight. And this is the financial insight that I'm providing for you to make an educated decision on what we need to do about property taxes and the cost of doing business going forward and revenues. And any questions?
I'll say you that you don't have any, you're not expecting any growth as far as business or anything?
2%. I'm projecting 2% growth. That's where the 2% growth in revenues comes from, that you're increasing your tax base. And I may be assuming too little, or I may be assuming too much. If we went back to 2008 on here and looked at projections, looked at averages from 2008 to now, I've got too much saying 2%. Because since 2000, we had a big dip in 2008 as far as the economy. And if you listen to the powers to be in economics, they say another one's coming. It's a cycle. You know, we can't enjoy good times forever. There's cycles in the way the economy goes.
And I'd just like to add, this. And again, I'm not trying to frighten anybody. I'm just passing on information that's been given to us. Regardless of what you guys do here today in terms of setting a revenue, there's still a freight train coming next year, and it's our insurance, our health insurance. And the big providers are saying expect a 25% increase. I think it may be more than that. We had a 14% increase this year. And if they get us with a 30% increase, we're looking at $300,000 to $400,000 in one lick next year that we have to pay. By law, we have to provide insurance to our full-time employees. So I'm just laying that out there. That train's coming.
Well, you say your average medium household 85,000, maybe what, 3.5%, what increase would they be looking at, you know?
Yes. It's in your book. Turn over, well, if you look here at $100,000 at 3.5 cents, it's $8.75 a year increase. So if you go down to 80, it's probably about $8 mathematically. Yes, Mr. Nate.
I'd like to ask you a question. If what you're saying is the increase in the expenditures in the budget is a result of inflation, just your estimate of inflation. If I think most of our taxes we pay compensate revenues for inflation. If the Happy Meal goes from $3 to $6, the sales tax revenue goes from 30 cents to 60 cents.
Right.
So sales tax revenues are dollar for dollar compensated for inflation.
That would be a true statement if we got the full 9.75% of the sales tax. We don't get that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, the state really gets the lion's share of the sales tax. The county government and the cities do also, because that's their point of sale.
Well, relatively speaking, whatever it is, our sales tax revenue would compensate proportionately.
If you looked at,
it would compensate the state because they receive most of the money.
If you looked at a graph from here to here of our revenues, the sales tax part's about this much of it.
Right.
Very little.
Well, our property values, if inflation goes up, our property values increase.
That's me assuming the 2% is our tax base.
Right.
Our tax base increases 2% plus a 2-cent tax increase in this graph here.
Well, our property taxes would, our property, if inflation goes up, our property gets reassessed. We pay more property taxes. It's the same compensating revenue for inflation. I think the only tax we have that I'm aware of that wouldn't be compensated for inflation, or self-compensating, would be wheel tax. it's in dollar terms. $35 is still $35, inflation ran off the levy. But it seems the other taxes would generate more revenue the same proportionately as the increase in the budget.
The property tax won't. The property tax is only set when we set it here.
Right.
If our property value goes up, and
By
the
state
state
law.
says that we have to come back down to that, even though our property value went up, we don't generate no more income unless we raise the taxes.
State law says that if you collect $6 million in property taxes before a reassessment, you still got to collect $6 million. So the tax rate adjusts accordingly based on you appraisals every, is it 4 years, Gary, 5 years?
That's why it went down last year to 0.6% last year, because we took the state's recommended tax rate. They said this amount, if you lower it to 9,334, it's going to generate the same as it was generated at 94. Yeah.
You don't get just because property value goes up.
You don't get the benefit.
You get it back into your general fund, because the only way it goes up is if we set it.
And Greg, this is probably a good opportunity, Mr. Chairman. There's been a lot of discussion about wheel tax versus property tax, and I've had a lot of input from you as commissioners and from citizens as well. I've reached out to the citizens and got a lot of feedback from them, and people tend to be more receptive to the wheel tax as opposed to property tax. But I want to remind everybody of this: if that's the will of this body and it's your call to make, it will take us 2 years, whatever we increase the wheel tax to. If we did, it would take 2 full years for us to reap the full benefits of it. It would take us a year to implement it, because we'd have to have a 2/3 vote here, and then send it to Nashville for legislative approval in Nashville, and then another 2/3 vote when it comes back. Am I right, Michael? And another 2/3 vote, and then implement July 1 of next year of 16, and then it would take a full year of collection for us to have the full benefit of it, because of the way the wheel tax is spread out throughout the year, whereas property tax, we have a little narrow window of collection. So it would take 2 years for us to fully benefit from it if we move forward on it now, and if that's the will of the body.
And I just want to add at this point that the Budget Committee will be looking in the next several months at wheel tax. We will be evaluating that and seeing how it can benefit us, seeing what changes can be made. And if we so decide to bring something to the table, we would do that in a timely manner so we can get it before legislation in January.
Sir?
Yes, sir.
What you're saying is you are still possibly looking at an increase in the wheel tax down the road, right? Even if we get this property tax increase. Is that correct?
Right now, the property tax is what it takes to balance the budget. Wheel
But we don't
tax
have a balanced budget, right? We're still running a deficit, right?
For the general fund.
for the general fund. We're willing to look at wheel tax. I'm not saying we're increasing or decreasing. I'm just saying that we're willing to take that study on.
So it's possible, like I'm saying, that we could be hit by a property tax increase if this passes on the commission, and an increase in the wheel.
And if that be the case, then there's also a high possibility that your property tax could be reduced.
Well, why would you increase it if you're going to reduce it? That doesn't make sense to me. Why would you talk about increasing it? If you're
Again,
saying
I think Mayor Witherspoon pretty boldly put it, it takes 2 years to make it happen. And so that's why we're willing to look at it and take that upon us now to review that. It's only a study.
2% property, or 2 cents, not 2 cents, 2 cents on property is not a whole lot of money, I grant you. But there's some people in this room, myself included, I'm not getting annual raises. My insurance is went through the roof, just like everybody else's, right? I'm not getting annual raises because I'm retired. A lot of other things have went up in my budget. But my revenue is at best staying here. In fact, the worker's man's paycheck has dropped in the last so many months over time in this country. We're not making the money, the workers are not making the money they made 2 or 3 years ago. So when is enough enough is what I'm saying. When can we stop talking about increases. And when we're having a hard enough time right now, the average Joe, and especially retirees, paying their bills. I mean, that's what it comes down to. My home budget, I've got to figure how much I got coming in, how much I got going out. If I'm running a deficit, sir, hey, something's got to give. I've got to cut, right? Eventually. I can't keep going like that.
Well, Mr. Jones, you're where you have an advantage over us. You're afforded the opportunity to cut anything you want inside your household. We don't have that luxury. 84% of our budget is either state or federally
I
mandated.
understand that, Mayor, but there are things that could be cut in this budget.
Where would you start?
Oh, I'd have to look at the budget and find out where I would start, you know. But all I'm saying is we can't keep increasing taxes on the poor, especially the poor people of this county, right, Mayor? I mean, I'm not trying to be ugly here or anything.
I completely understand. There's not a person in this body that takes this decision lightly or wants to pay 1 penny more in taxes.
I understand that. I understand that. But I'm talking about the person like myself that's retired. You can actually price me out of my house on taxes. On taxes, on not just property taxes, I'm talking about every other tax. You can actually price a retiree out of his house. And I don't want to see that happen. You know?
And neither do we, but just to be honest with you, I don't want to park an ambulance. I don't want to shut down a fire station. I don't want to put people's lives in jeopardy and public
Fire
safety in
department
jeopardy.
in Gibson County is the cheapest, is the best deal we got going, because we got volunteers. They don't get paid. They don't get paid.
It's the best deal we've got going, and it's one of the few departments that the state said we can cut.
Yes, sir. They're the best deal we got going.
I agree with you.
So
We fully recognize this. Most volunteer men.
Mr. Jones, we appreciate your input. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
I reflect on what Paul was saying. There's a couple of statistics that I'm aware of that I think we all ought to be aware of. People of Gibson County is not in great shape. According to the Tennessee Department of Education website, 61% of the students who attend school in Gibson County are classified as economically disadvantaged. 61%. That's what we used to call poor folks. That's a more politically correct term. But the individual per capita income for Gibson County, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, is $20,400. I think our county employees average somewhere around $32,000 a year. It's difficult for me to understand how we can justify increasing the taxes on people making $20,000 a year to give raises to people making $32,000 a year.
If you take the elected officials out of that, it's not $32,000 a year. The people that's actually working is a lot lower than that, David. If you take the mandated salaries out of that, it is not $32,000 a year.
Well, I averaged hourly figures only that Glenn got from Greg. $32,000 a year is roughly $15 an hour.
They don't care about that.
And that's not counting big salary, people.
And we're still losing paramedics to Crockett County who pays how much more an hour than we did start?
$2.
We're losing paramedics. We're training paramedics to send to Crockett County because we pay less than they do. And it's a struggle. I mean, it's something we have to combat constantly. To find a balance. Do we pay them enough to keep them here, or do we train them and lose them?
So, let's start. So what's the solution to?
We're gonna move on with the presentation. You guys can discuss this after the meeting. We're gonna move forward. Does anybody else have any comment? Commissioner Sykes.
Yes, sir. On this budget, of course, we have to do this every year. And next year or the next, if we see that these numbers are changing, we can vote to reduce the tax also, just every year. It's not locked in forever. We've reduced taxes before and we've increased them before just to balance it out. But this is this year's budget now with projected 5 years out. So in the future, if we see that needs to be changed, we can also change it also.
You certainly can. It's the
We
will of
do
this
this
body.
every year. Next year, we'll have another budget, just like we did this year.
And Mr. Sykes, I can assure you that Tom and I are doing everything in our power to look at ways to reduce costs. I mean, I took a look at some things, and that's why, you know, this year when Mr. Longmire stood up here and said we've been able to reduce the cost overall, it's because we've looked at some insurance things, we looked at the way we're covered. There's other things coming up. Mr. Bobby's, I believe, is the chairman of the insurance committee. We're going to look at the health care insurance between now and the end of the year. I mean, there's a lot of things. You know, what I'm trying to say is I'm hoping that we can do something to negate this 2% increase in expenditures. And we're working hard every day to find ways to cut costs without crippling services.
And do it lawfully, and that's an important part of it. I mean, every time I go to Nashville, I cry and cry about unfunded mandates and rules and regulations that affect our ability to govern and to properly manage our budget, and that's all I can do is cry.
Well, don't we need to get our representatives to bring this up to legislature? I ain't never heard of it coming up.
We sent letters and letters about unfunded mandates from this body over the last 20 years, and as far as I know, hadn't none of them ever responded to us.
Yeah, and we do a resolution every year that we send up to Nashville opposing unfunded mandates, and
Shouldn't we have Curtis bring it up? He does.
yeah, and he does. I mean, Curtis does a good job of doing that for us and representing us, but it wouldn't hurt for you to have a talk with him about it. Just remind him. Any further questions or discussion?
But if we don't pass the tax increase, we will be okay for this year.
You will?
I mean, I know you're talking about future, but
Yeah.
I'm talking about this year.
It just, if we don't pass an increase this year, then instead of the train hitting us in 5 years, it'll be 4 years when it hits us, or maybe 3.5 years when it hits us. That's the.
And I want to remind you also, and I'm just giving you the information to do with what you will. It'll be reflected in our fund balance, because the money's going to have to come out of fund balance. And all this hard work that we've done to achieve these bond rating improvements could be reeled back. We could go back from an AA minus that we are now, just found out, back to an A plus or worse. So that fund balance is our fiscal barometer that the grading agencies look at to determine how well we're managed and how well we're doing. So just be prepared that if that's the will of this body, when our bond rating goes down, that's why.
And I might also add, your fund balance is also your insurance bond. I mean, if you have a tornado swipe through here and it does $2 million worth of devastation, we front that money first. And then we hope that FEMA and TEMA will declare the disaster as they normally do, and have been very gracious in the past to do. But when they do that, that money is not back in our county within a short time frame. In fact, it will take as many as a couple to 6 years to fully get that funding back to us. So the fund balance is very important to us if we have that ability when needed, particularly in a time of disaster or a time of flooding. It could be anything, that we have those funds available and on hand and ready to go to work.
And I'd also remind you that the money in the fund balance, and we've got a project coming back this week, their second visit at the county park, and everybody keep your fingers crossed on that. When they visited the first trip, their first question to me as we were going through the park was, does the county have funds to offer financial incentive, and would they be willing to do so? My answer was yes. And we were able to answer yes because we've got that cash on hands, and that's the only place that sort of incentive can come from a fund balance. So from an economic development perspective, it's very, very important that we keep that balance there, to keep that fund healthy as possible.
And if we land a employer with 500 to 700 jobs, we may not have this discussion on property tax increases for the next 2 or 3 years. You know, it's all relevant. It's all part of the equation.
I may need a job there in about 3 years.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
I appreciate the discussion, and I want to share with you, and it's in your packets, and I think it's pretty relevant, but if we look at the 3.5 cents, I think on about the second page of your packet, you can kind of see what that costs us to the property tax increase. If you look at a $100,000 house, at a 3.5 cent increase, that is basically an $8.75 increase. Likewise, if you look at a $350,000 house, you're looking at a $30.63 increase in property taxes. We have worked very hard to give you some farmland pricing. I appreciate everything that Director Billa has put into this. He's basically took an assessment value by calculating the Greenbelt assessment for the county divided by the total farmland that's appraised. And as you see that at 3.5 cents on a $350,000 farm, you're looking at $12. On a $1 million farm, you're looking at $34.27, which is somewhat close to a $350,000 house. So that's an idea of how your 3.5 cents affects your property tax.
And with the help of Mr. Pascal too also in this data.
It's all farmland, all Greenbelt.
If the farmer so chooses, they can apply for the application. Mr. Pascal can answer that question probably better than me. As far as Greenbelt, is all farmland in Greenbelt, or is it, and I answered, if the farmer so chooses, it can be put in the Greenbelt.
They have to apply for it.
And then there's different levels. If it's floodland, they pay less, is that not correct?
Yeah, the floodland trees, all of the land will be different, even outside of Greenbelt, because it's priced differently. And then when it goes into Greenbelt, the state figures the use values. I think the use value on floodland is like $200 an acre. Non-productive land is $100 an acre. Some of the other land is $3,500 to $3,600 an acre. But the use value is about $1,500 to $2,000.
I got a question for Greg.
Yes,
Have you ever had a chance or anything to look to see how many retirees we have in the county?
I've never looked at that. I'm not even sure where to start to find the, I don't know if there's if it's a census, or maybe we can go back to 2010 census and look at that. But, you know, in property taxes, and Dana is here, when retired, if you're retired over a certain age, can't you apply for state property tax relief?
We do, this is like the 42nd year the state of Tennessee has implemented this. 65 or older disabled homeowners or VAs. Our VAs, we're gonna have to ask income this year. It's 100% combat, which is $60,000 or less per homeowner. The disabled and elderly is the income limit's $28,620, $50, but we have a meeting in July, so we'll know exactly the figures and how it's gonna talk to us. And I just wanna let y'all know, y'all are more than welcome to come by our office and talk to us about it. We're signing up more and more every day. We actually right now have over 120 applicants in the county, so just.
At what age does elderly start?
65 or older.
Yes, sir.
Greg, the 2010 census shows age 65 and over 17.4%.
Any further questions, comments?
So today, if we, is it required that would the budget be funded the way it is if we did nothing?
Are you asking me if we do nothing, like say, no changes, will it be funded? It will be funded. It will be a deficit to our fund balance.
You know, if we came in and didn't do a tax increase, if we got to the point that we do need to increase revenues, would you do a wheel tax? Could that be, does that be brought up during budget time, or could that be brought up?
It takes a year to do that process and a year to see the revenue. So you're looking at a 2-year term.
Also,
I just want to make clear one thing, a misconception. The 3.5 cents balances the general fund and the general capital projects. You know, we talked about those capital projects, the fire and the ambulance. Well, the general fund and the capital projects will be balanced with a 3.5 cent tax increase. That's where we got the 3.5 cents. We just didn't pull it out of the air. That's where we got it.
Yes, ma'am.
Some counties have it frozen, and someone gets 65, whatever rate they're paying for their phone at the time. That's what they keep paying.
Dana would have to answer that question.
that was not, voted on in, I don't know if that's ever been brought up. Years ago, I don't think they voted, I think they voted against it. When that happens, you freeze to 93.34. Then you gotta find another income to come in here.
So now, when that happens, then all of a sudden, the tax rate doesn't bring in the revenue that it would normally. So we have to, instead, you have to increase the property taxes a little bit more to compensate for those that you're not increasing, basically.
Question be called for.
We ain't got a motion yet, do we?
I'm about to get there. We have a passed budget, and at this time, I want to recommend that to the commission that we maintain a balanced budget. It's my recommendation we set forth a new tax rate described by late file resolution number 5. The new tax rate be set to 96.84 cents. The increase of 3.5 cents will be added to the general fund to increase the new rate of 81.84 cents.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Longmire and seconded by Commissioner Cole. Any further discussion? If not, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hughes,
No.
Commissioner Egbert,
No.
Commissioner Cunningham,
No.
Commissioner Sykes,
Yes.
Commissioner Longmire,
Yes.
Commissioner Carl,
Yes.
Commissioner Matthews, Commissioner Tubbs,
Yes.
Commissioner Morgan,
No.
Commissioner Cameron,
Yes.
Commissioner Summers,
Yes.
Commissioner Cole,
Yes.
Commissioner Nance,
No.
Commissioner Locke,
No.
Commissioner Carter,
Yes.
Commissioner Flake,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner McEwen,
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton,
No.
Commissioner Pell,
No.
Commissioner Steele,
No.
Commissioner Yerkes,
No.
Commissioner Childers,
Yes.
Commissioner Moss.
Yes.
Yes.
14 for, 10 against, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank y'all. I appreciate it.
Again, I appreciate everybody's hard work, especially the Budget Committee on this process. A lot of time and effort. Very tough decision making went into this, and I applaud each and every one of you for the time you put into it. Do we have any further motions? I make a motion we fix this air conditioner before the next meeting. If not, we're going to adjourn. I'll see you guys on July 13th. Thank you.